Doctor, one of the services that you provide in your clinic is chelation. A lot of different ways to do that. What are some of the best and safest ways to do that?
Well, well, the best way depends on what your goal is with it.
Okay.
There's a lot of best ways. The best way I like is to use chelation for its basic purpose, which is to take toxic metals out of the body. We all have probably an overburden of toxic metals: lead, cadmium, mercury, three of the prominent ones. If you have too much of that in your body, you may not know it, because we're dealing with a level of toxicity or burden that is lower than conventional medicine sees. It's not on their radar. So if you have toxic burden of lead or cadmium, according to conventional medicine, it's life-threatening. You know, that means if you've had an industrial accident, or you somehow or other got a toxic poisoning of this lead or cadmium. If you don't deal with that, then it's dreadful. On the other hand, we all have